Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Lord Talent. Return to the city, extraordinary tier. Return to the city. No matter where you are, you can return to your territory anytime and anywhere. In the next 8 seconds, you can restore 100% of your physical state. You can also specify 50 million life forms or 50 million units of supplies to return to your territory together. If the specified life form is a life form, it will recover 50% of its physical state in the next half an hour. Lord Talent Notification. This talent can be activated 10 times a day. Lord Talent. Embrace of the Conqueror, extraordinary tier. Embrace of the Conqueror. 1. Every time a lord conquers a territory, he can attract a different number of classless subjects to join his territory. 2. Every time a lord conquered a regional territory, he could attract a different number of professional subjects to join his territory. 3. Every time a lord conquered a kingdom, he could obtain the loyalty of 3 heroes with the extraordinary tier hero fate level slot, 2 heroes with the epic tier hero fate level slot, and 1 hero with the legendary tier hero fate level slot. 4. Every time a lord conquered an empire, he could obtain the loyalty of 3 heroes with the low-tier deity level and 1 hero with the mid-tier deity level hero's fate level. 5. Every time a lord conquers a divine kingdom, he can obtain the loyalty of 3 of his own race's heroes who have the true god-tier hero fate level. Lord Talent. Collector, extraordinary tier. Scavenger. You are a well-known collector. You have countless treasures that are recognized by the outside world but can't be obtained. As a collector, you are obsessed with the treasures of the world. You have a greedy intuition towards the treasures that exist within a 1 million kilometer radius around you. You can acutely sense the location of the treasures. At the same time, if the treasure in your collection has characteristics such as time limit or endurance, you can rely on your rich collection and preservation experience to find a way to extend the usage of this treasure. It can extend the usage by up to 5 times. At special moments, you can also activate your collector's power to temporarily increase the number of uses of this treasure. However, the usage of this overdraft treasure often comes with a certain price. When you extract the loot from the corpse, the drop rate will increase by an additional 30%. Lord Talent. Heavenly Blessed Divine Bodies, extraordinary tier. Connate Spirit Body. Your territory's subject and your constitution are heavenly blessed divine bodies. Your potential has increased by a large level. The highest level is no higher than low-tier deity level advanced grade. There would not be any harmful impurities in the body in the heavenly blessed divine bodies. It would be easier to absorb the energy of heaven and earth. At the same time, it would be easier to break through the bottleneck of the realm. Even if the breakthrough failed, it would not cause harm to the body. Creatures with the heavenly blessed divine bodies have a 5% increase in success rate when advancing to the God's Spirit realm. Lord Talent. Spirit Body 7, extraordinary tier. Spirit Body 7. Cultivate Constitution type Lord Talent. You and your subject have a cultivation constitution like Spirit Body 7. When cultivating martial arts, elemental meditation, chi refinement meditation, and other cultivation actions, the efficiency of absorbing promotion energy will increase by 5,000%. Even if you and your subjects don't cultivate, the promotion energy wandering in the world will automatically fuse into your body and accelerate your strength realm. Lord Talent. Blessing of the 10 Gods. Wisdom Master God's Blessing, extraordinary tier. Blessing of the 10 Gods. Wisdom Master God's Blessing. The Wisdom Master God's blessing of one of the 10 Master Gods under the Supreme Will. The Wisdom Master God has blessed you and your wisdom-related professionals. When you and your wisdom-related professionals carry out wisdom-related professional actions, you will receive an additional 4,000% promotion energy. There is also a chance of obtaining more wisdom and inspiration when carrying out wisdom creation-related actions. After reading it, Zhou Zhou was so happy that he almost laughed out loud. It was not in vain that he had spent so many precious Lord Talent crystal fragments to upgrade them. The upgraded Lord Talent's effect was indeed extraordinary. For example, after the mysterious caravan leveled up to Diamond tier, there were no changes in other aspects. There was an additional supreme blessing called Treasure Hunt. Even though there were no obvious benefits now, this was clearly an improvement in the future. Maybe one day, Zhang Fugui and the others would send him some kind of treasure? The Diamond Tier Lord Talent Alchemist Guild was upgraded to Extraordinary Lord Talent Alchemist Kingdom. Not only had its name changed, but its innate ability had also been improved in all aspects. In the future, when he researched and developed the Dark Walker's secret medicine, it should be easier to develop the Dark Walker potion with better effects. After the Extraordinary Tier Return to the City leveled up, the greatest benefit was that when he used Return to the City in the future, he no longer needed that 1 second of chanting time. On the battlefield, the timing was ever-changing. At this critical moment, he might be able to escape a life-and-death crisis. Apart from that, the number of people and resources that returned to the city could cover increased from 10 million to 50 million. The number of usages had also increased from the previous 4 to more than 10. They were all very practical improvements. The increase in the Lord Talent, Embrace of the Conqueror, might seem good, but it was nothing to Zhou Zhou. This was because Zhou Zhou had a large number of hero inheritance manuals provided by the King of Loots. Furthermore, he had generously distributed them. It could be said that there was no lack of heroes in his territory. After the collector reached the Extraordinary Tier level, be it sensing the range of the treasure or extending the use of the treasure, they had all improved. As for the Diamond Tier Lord Talent Connate Spirit Body, the upgrade to the Heavenly Blessed Divine Bodies surprised Zhou Zhou. Even though its effect still increased its potential by a large level, its upper limit had increased from the previous Legendary Advanced Grade to Low-Tier Deity Level Advanced Grade. One step away. However, it gave those subjects who were only one step away from becoming gods a chance to break through to the God Spirit level. In addition, the Heavenly Blessed Divine Bodies could increase the probability of becoming a god. In the future, his territory might be able to rely on this Lord Talent to give birth to a few more local god spirits. As for the upgrade of Spirit Body 7, it increased the efficiency of him and his subjects in absorbing the promotion energy by 10 times. This was also a rather astonishing improvement. As for the Blessing of the 10 Gods, Wisdom Master God's Blessing, after it was upgraded to Extraordinary level, the additional promotion energy obtained by the intelligent-related professionals under his command increased from 4,000% to 5,000% when they carried out intelligent-related class actions. It was also a huge improvement. After upgrading all his Lord Talents, Zhou Zhou looked at how many Lord Talent crystal fragments he had left. He realized that there was a total of 2,156,522 Black Iron Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 2,587,413 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 9,239 White Silver Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 5,895 Yellow Gold Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 1,600 White Platinum Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 355 Diamond Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 12 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 1 Epic Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragment, 5 Legendary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 6 Mythical Tier Unique Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. Looks like a lot, but there wouldn't be much if I fuse it into an advanced Lord Talent Crystal Fragment. I still have to conquer more people of foreign race lords. Zhou Zhou lamented. Then, he called Aaliyah, Mugu, Zheng Fugui, and Carol Moali over. A moment later, Mugu, Zheng Fugui, and Carol Moali came to Zhou Zhou. "Greetings, Your Majesty," the three of them said respectfully. "Can you feel the improvements in your bodies? Tell me the details." Zhou Zhou smiled at the three of them. "Your Majesty, my current strength is still that of an extraordinary tier advanced grade rancher. However, the number of monster shepherds under me has increased from 15,000 to 50,000. In addition, the number of monster ranches in my ranchland continent has also increased from 700 to 1,000 today. Moreover, the maximum capacity of each monster ranch has increased from 700,000 to 1 million. Moreover, The fog monsters nurtured in every monster ranch are more likely to give birth to high-level fog monsters instead of low-level fog monsters. The proportion of high-level fog monsters in the monster ranch will increase greatly. And when Mugu said this, he suddenly stretched out his right hand. A somewhat illusory scarlet ball appeared in his fair palm. The ball was enveloped by the scarlet fog. One could vaguely see that it was a complete world with mountains, rivers, rising and setting suns, and the cycle of all things. Mugu said in a deep voice, "My ranchland continent has already evolved from a single continent to a complete, plain world. With the scale of the plain world, the ranchland continent shouldn't be called the ranchland continent anymore. It should be called the ranchland plain. The total area of the ranchland continent has also increased from more than 1.5 million square kilometers of the previous ranch continent to more than 10 million square kilometers. I have a feeling that the growth potential of the ranchland plain has greatly increased. If it can continue to grow, it should be able to advance to a true small world, middle world, and even the boundless universe in the future." Towards the end, Mugu boldly imagined the future of his ranchland plain. Zhou Zhou nodded. Mugu's speculation was not unreasonable. All paths lead to the same destination. After reaching a certain level, they would eventually advance to the concept of a world. It was the same for the original spirit race and the true god tier. Mugu's future path should be similar. In that case, then wouldn't the monsters produced by the ranchland continent tomorrow reach 1 billion? At this thought, Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. It had to be known that every yellow gold tier god attendant or violent storm demon spirit could drop 3 class change certificates and recruitment books from his king of loots. If these 3 billion fog monsters were all used to nurture the yellow gold tier god attendant and the violent storm demon spirit, wouldn't they drop 9 billion recruitment books and 9 billion class change certificates? My good lord. In that case, it's very likely that my soldiers will directly break through the 10 billion mark tomorrow? Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. At the same time, he was very happy. Even though most of the soldiers were Black Iron Tier elementary grade soldiers, going to the battlefield he needed to face now was no different from courting death. However, now that he had the legendary level blessing of the 10 gods, the blessing of the war god, at most, he could spend 2 days raising the strength of these new recruits to the white-silver level. White-silver tier strength was enough for the soldiers to barely have the strength to protect themselves on the battlefield. When the time came, they could use them boldly. Of these 1,000 monster ranches, 400 are used to nurture yellow gold tier god attendants, 400 are used to nurture violent storm demon spirits, and the remaining 200 are reserved for the mechanical fear falcon, 50 for the iron-eating bear, and 100 for the withering number. That's the plan for now. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and said, "The wings dropped by the mechanical fear falcon, the Type 3 radar of the fear falcon, and the pet egg dropped by the iron-eating bear actually had alternative spoils of war in other aspects, but they were not as stable as the monster ranch. Hence, Zhou Zhou left them very little. However, not only could the withered tree drop the jade sun tree seed, but most importantly, it could also drop the tree core gem, lowering the equipment requirements. Zhou Zhou had never seen such a special item before. Therefore, the share of its monster ranch definitely could not decrease. It might even increase the share of its monster ranch in the future." "Yes, Your Majesty." Mugu nodded respectfully. Zhou Zhou looked at Zheng Fugui. When Zheng Fugui saw this, he stood up with a smile. "Your Majesty, the number of mysterious merchant has increased from 100,000 to 200,000. The number of carriages transporting goods has also increased to 100,000. Also, all the mysterious merchants' abilities have been upgraded to epic tier elementary grade. The internal space of each mysterious merchant's mysterious ring has also increased from the original 3 million cubic meters to 10 million cubic meters. Finally, we also have an additional treasure hunting ability. We can have a chance to buy rare and valuable treasures during the business process." "Very good." Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Currently, Zheng Fugui's mysterious caravan, apart from traveling around the high continent and purchasing treasures, had another more important job. It was to help the Blazing Sun Kingdom sell local products and excess loot to the lords in the high continent. Previously, The profits that the mysterious caravan brought to the Blazing Sun Kingdom accounted for about 10% of the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom's profits. After this upgrade, even without the new ability of treasure hunting, the benefits that the mysterious caravan brought to the Blazing Sun Kingdom would probably increase by 3 to 4 times. Then, Zhou Zhou looked at Carol Moali. Your Majesty, the shelter of the Goddess of Life now has a total of 50 million clergymen, 50 million priests, 50 million nuns, and 1 billion holy knights of life. My strength has also advanced to the high-tier deity-level elementary grade. Carol Moali stepped forward and said with a faint smile. Zhou Zhou smiled and nodded. Another high-tier deity-level combat power. Even though Carol Moali, a high-tier deity-level combatant, could not participate in his war, she could only use her healing and resurrection abilities to revive others. These abilities could only be used by him at the cost of faith divine crystals, but that didn't matter. Zhou Zhou didn't lack ordinary faith divine crystals. In most cases, he could ask Carol Moali to help him. He just lacked Holy Spirit-level faith divine crystals. Then, Zhou Zhou chatted with the three of them for a while. After understanding more information, he let them leave. After they left, Zhou Zhou thought about what else he could do. After thinking for a while, he suddenly thought of something. The Dragon Lady Lord and the others had been his subordinates for a long time, but he did not seem to have let them experience any relatively strong combat power with him. Tell them to come and help too. Even though I might not be able to help. Zhou Zhou shook his head and did not think too much about it. He opened his friend list and created a group. He pulled in all the lords of the Star Alliance, Dragon Lady Lord, and the other 20 kings of Cerulean Planet. Military Industry Lord. This group is really good, definitely included all the top lords of the Cerulean Planet. Mystic Heaven Kingdom, Mystic Heaven Lord, Your Majesty, do you need us to do anything since you created this group? Overlord Kingdom, Overlord Lord, do you need us to fight? I've wanted to experience the battles Your Majesty experiences daily since a long time ago. Heavenly Commerce Kingdom, Heavenly Commerce Lord, the Overlord is indeed heroic. A businessman like me still likes to stand behind the soldiers and listen to the general's commands when leading troops. Overlord Country, Overlord Lord. I've cultivated my martial arts, so of course I have to rush to the front and fight. Otherwise, my bright muscles and my bloodline ability will be wasted. Dragon Blood Kingdom, Dragon Lady Lord. What are Your Majesty's orders? Blazing Sun Kingdom, Intermediate Grade, Lord of the Blazing Sun. Do you want to participate in the largest war that the lords of all races can experience at this stage? Zhou Zhou typed. The battle that they might have to experience tonight could definitely be said to be the highest level battle that the lords of the myriad races would definitely not be able to come into contact with at this stage. Even some Empire-level lord factions that had just been established might not have seen such a terrifying lineup of fog monster lord factions. As the lord ranked first on the current rankings, he had the confidence and qualifications to say this. After he finished speaking, the top-notch lords of Cerulean Planet immediately fell silent. After a while, the Dragon Lady Lord sent a message. Dragon Lady Lord, Your Majesty, are you working with another Empire-level Scarlet Fog Monster faction? Dragon Lady Lord mentioned. The most exaggerated outcome she had imagined. They couldn't possibly start a war with the Divine Kingdom now, right? Then, she saw a light voice message. Blazing Sun Kingdom, Intermediate Grade, Lord of the Blazing Sun. That's not it. This king must have killed some of the fog monsters too ruthlessly. In the end, the fog monsters actually joined forces to suppress me. Blazing Sun Kingdom, Intermediate Grade, Lord of the Blazing Sun. They have gathered about 12 Empire-level Scarlet Legions and more than 200 Kingdom-level Scarlet Legions. Their total military strength is about 5 billion Scarlet Fog Soldiers and about 100 Scarlet God Spirits. They will all participate in tonight's war against the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Blazing Sun Kingdom, Intermediate Grade, Lord of the Blazing Sun. Join me if you have time. I don't need you to show off. You can stay amidst my army and try not to get close to the heart of the battle. Otherwise, your army may be implicated during the battles with the other god spirits. Dragon Blood Kingdom, Dragon Lady Lord. Military Industry Kingdom, Military Industry Lord. Mystic Heaven Kingdom, Mystic Heaven Lord. Heavenly Commerce Kingdom, Heavenly Commerce Lord. Is His Majesty really going through the same version of the fight for supremacy as us? Why do I feel that my version has only been updated to the initial version, but His Majesty is already in the middle and late version? However, don't worry, Your Majesty. I'll bring my troops over immediately. Dragon Blood Kingdom, Dragon Lady Lord. Actually, I've had this feeling since the beginning. I'll gather the army and come over through the teleportation array. Overlord, Overlord Lord. This is the battle I yearn for. I'll be right there. Military Industry Kingdom, Military Industry Lord. Your Majesty, I'll come over later. I'll bring more firearms. Recently, the domestic weapons engineers have researched the manufacturing method of the Red Planet RPG. Currently, 13,500 have been manufactured. I'll bring them all over. The various lords had money supplied money, those who had strength supplied manpower, and those who had resources supplied resources. No one was playing tricks. They were all doing their best. Under the influence of high loyalty, even though some of them would be afraid of the upcoming war, none of them had the thought of escaping from Zhou Zhou's rule. Zhou Zhou smiled when he saw this scene. Afraid of war? Then, through tonight's battle, he would raise their courage and knowledge. Looking at the Lords of the Star Alliance, even though it was their first time experiencing a war of this scale, they were not afraid at all. They even discussed how to fight in high spirits. They were also thinking about insight defection. Zhou Zhou suddenly thought of something. Then, he shared the epic tier insight defection and the epic tier blessing of the war god with the human kings of Cerulean Planet and the Lords of the Star Alliance. The Dragon Lady Lord, the human king of Cerulean Planet, the spiritual medicine lord, and the other lords of the Star Alliance were shocked when they saw the latest shared lord talent. 30% insight defection ratio. He could use it twice a day. Obtained an additional 8,000% promotion energy. No matter which one it was, the lords couldn't stop smiling. At that time, the chat group was filled with words like, "Thank you, Your Majesty," "Long live Your Majesty," and "Your Majesty is awesome." Zhou Zhou sent the last message with an unchanged expression. Blazing Sun Kingdom, Intermediate Grade, Lord of the Blazing Sun. Work hard tonight. These fog monsters are enemies to others, but to us, they are our treasures. Military Industry Kingdom, Military Industry Lord. Just do it. Heavenly Commerce Kingdom, Heavenly Commerce Lord. I suddenly thought of a scene. Tell me, if we use insight defection on these 12 Empire-level Scarlet Legions and more than 200 Kingdom-level Scarlet Legions, wouldn't their 5 billion-strong Scarlet Fog Army be incited by our insight defection's 1.5 billion-strong army in the blink of an eye? F***CK. Just thinking about it is a little exciting. Overlord Kingdom, Overlord Lord. This is indeed the way. When the time comes, we'll let the fog monster soldiers who instigated the insight defection directly fight among themselves. We guarantee that we'll be able to deal a heavy blow to these Scarlet Fog forces. At that time, they'll probably lose half of their troops before the battle even begins. Mystic Heaven Kingdom, Mystic Heaven Lord. Haha, so tragic, but it's interesting to imagine. At this moment, the lords were relying on the superpower of insight defection and were a little optimistic. Zhou Zhou's expression was calm. He did not feel that victory was in his grasp. 12 Empire-level Scarlet Legions? Generally speaking, most of the Empire-level Scarlet Lord factions are connected to some of their true bodies. They are even Lord factions protected by true God tier. Even if the true God tiers behind these empires can't personally take action due to the Supreme Agreement, they will probably bestow some methods to cause some trouble for us. However, there's no other way. Now is the time to get ready. Then, if we meet on a narrow path, the brave will win. Zhou Zhou's eyes were dark. In the time that followed, the lords of the Cerulean Planet also went to prepare for tonight's battle. Meanwhile, Zhou Zhou received a piece of news from Gerton, who had come to look for him. His teacher, Geralt, had just finished making the Demon Hunter's class change secret medicine. He could go over and change his class. Advanced Grade Lord's Paradise, in the pharmaceutical laboratory. Zhou Zhou looked at the extra-large black gold bathtub in front of him. The bathtub was filled with a dark purple liquid that glowed with a crystalline light. It looked like a purple starry sky. His nose twitched slightly, and he actually smelled a refreshing smell. This is the hunter's secret potion? Zhou Zhou looked curiously at Geralt, who was drinking tea at the side. Yes. Geralt nodded lightly. And it's the top-notch secret medicine for a hunter's job change. It's called the Dragon of the Abyss. Dragons are the symbol of the top bloodline in the myriad worlds. In the name of dragon, it's enough to prove the top-notch effect of this top-notch hunter's secret medicine on the development of demon bloodlines and class advancement. Even if the bloodline in His Majesty's body is the legendary Master God-tier demon bloodline, this Abyss Dragon secret medicine can still be perfectly developed. To His Majesty, it's more than enough. As Geralt said these words, his gaze could not help but fall on the mysterious secret medicine that was like a purple starry sky. A pained look appeared in his eyes. Even if he was the top existence in the demon hunter profession, he could not produce a few of such top-notch secret medicines. If not for the fact that his disciple Gerton had obtained a huge improvement from the King of the Blazing Sun, and Geralt had no choice but to accept the favor of the King of the Blazing Sun, he would not be willing to pay such a huge price to prepare such a secret medicine for the King of the Blazing Sun. Zhou Zhou was surprised and happy to hear that. The first demon bloodline in his body was the top-notch Master God-tier advanced grade bloodline. Then this abyssal dragon profession change potion was simply suitable for him. He was really afraid that Geralt would take out an ordinary demon hunter profession change elixir and let him become an incomplete demon hunter professionals. However, there was no more need to worry. Thank you, Your Holiness Geralt. When I become a demon hunter, I will definitely give His Majesty a generous gift, Zhou Zhou said as he looked at the class change secret medicine with a satisfied expression. Geralt nodded nonchalantly. As an intermediate grade kingdom's king, no matter how shocking his performance was among the lords of the myriad races, what kind of gift could he bring out to tempt him? A high-tier deity-level advanced grade god spirit? Zhou Zhou didn't say anything when he saw he like this. He only smiled. You only need to enter it? Zhou Zhou said. Take off your clothes, Geralt said. After that, I'll activate the exclusive secret formation of the Dragon of the Abyss for His Majesty. This way, the power of the demon bloodline in His Majesty's body can be stimulated to the greatest extent in the shortest time possible, and the demon hunter profession can be activated. Sure. Zhou Zhou did not beat around the bush. There was nothing to be embarrassed about as two grown men. He put away his clothes and entered the bathtub. As soon as he entered, Zhou Zhou felt a violent and domineering power rush into his body from the purple liquid, wanting to activate the power of the demon bloodline in the deepest part of his body. However, he did not know if it was because the first demon bloodline in his body was too strong or because of other reasons. No matter how this violent and domineering power stimulated his physical potential, the power of the first demon bloodline in his body was like a strong adult facing a child's fist. There was not much fluctuation throughout the entire process. Only a trace of the power of the first demon bloodline was triggered and fused into his body, increasing his origin power by about 1/10,000. At the same time, Geralt looked at the secret medicine-changing liquid that was trembling slightly and could not help but fall into deep thought. His gaze landed on Zhou Zhou. The power of the secret medicine was actually consumed so quickly. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. His Majesty's demon bloodline doesn't look ordinary. It seems to be stronger than the demon bloodline in my body. When Geralt thought of this, he could not help but click his tongue. One had to know that the demon bloodline in his body was the demon bloodline of a low-level master god, Demogorgon. This demon lord was one of the 3 famous giants of the Abyss. But even so, this had not happened when he had changed his profession to demon hunter. It could be seen how high the level of the demon bloodline of this human king was. An intermediate grade master god tier, or even an advanced grade master god? At this moment, Geralt thought of many famous abyssal existences. Who is it? Geralt looked at Zhou Zhou, who was absorbing the power of the secret medicine with his eyes closed, and his eyes gradually lit up. What a good seedling for a demon hunter. He did not expect to meet a human junior who was so suitable to inherit the demon hunter profession after coming out of the abyss to meet his disciple, an idea suddenly appeared in Geralt's mind. Should he accept the other party as his disciple? With such a disciple with astonishing potential, in addition to his experience and legacy, as long as he taught him everything, he might be able to witness the moment when King of the Blazing Sun became a true god tier, or even a master god tier. If the King of the Blazing Sun really became the legendary master god tier, it would be immeasurable for the human race and even for the myriad races. He stopped thinking about it. Geralt bit his right index finger and gently dripped a drop of black blood on the ground in front of the bathtub. The moment the drop of black blood landed on the ground, it suddenly burned into a ball of pitch-black flames. Then, as if it had triggered a domino, this ball of black flames quickly spread in all directions with the bathtub as the center, forming a circular black fire magic array. Geralt formed seals with both hands and chanted, instilling his divine power into the magic formation. Then, the black fire array suddenly flared up and enveloped Zhou Zhou, who was in the bathtub. Geralt maintained his divine power output while looking at Zhou Zhou with a grave expression. What kind of power you can obtain next will depend on you, he said softly. When Geralt activated the Profession Change magical formation, Zhou Zhou felt that the power gushing out from the liquid of the Profession Change elixir had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. The pressure on Zhou Zhou's body suddenly increased by 10 times, or even 100 times. He took a deep breath as the powerful chaos will suppress the intense pain coming from his body. But in the next moment, a deep purple eye appeared in his mind like an abyssal sun. This eye was like a supreme abyssal ruler, emitting a terrifying abyssal aura and pressure. Even true god-tier existences like the Yellow Emperor, Patriarch Liu, and Bai he couldn't give him such a terrifying feeling. The Master God tier. This terrifying thought instantly surfaced in Zhou Zhou's mind. The owner of this eye was a Master God tier. Only an existence at the Master God tier level could give him such terrifying pressure. As for who this Master God tier was, Zhou Zhou didn't need to think too much about it. Because there was only one possibility, that was the owner of the demon bloodline in his body. First demon, Deep Abyss. It was once the creation of the Abyss Will and the original Lord of the Abyss. However, just as he was about to unify the Abyss, he suddenly had the thought of rebelling against the Abyss Will. He was a terrifying existence that was sentenced by the Abyss Will to eternal dismemberment. This first bloodline actually has such a disadvantage. Zhou Zhou's expression was ugly. The last time was the remnant soul of a true god-tier Black Dragon Emperor. This time, it was the Master God-tier Deep Abyss again. It was related to high-level items like bloodlines and souls, but the risk of using it was actually so great. These thoughts were born and destroyed in Zhou Zhou's mind in an instant. The next second, the eye of Deep Abyss in the sky suddenly released a pressure 10 times stronger than before. At this moment, the chaos will that Zhou Zhou was so proud of could not even withstand a second before he felt a soul-tearing pain. The next second, boom, his soul turned into chaos. At this moment, even though Zhou Zhou's physical body and soul were still intact, he was already dead. It was a death of consciousness, and it could also be said that he was shocked. When the eye of Deep Abyss saw this scene, a faint smile appeared in its dark purple eyes. It muttered to itself. However, any true god tier, or even most master god tiers, would not be able to understand what Deep Abyss was saying. After muttering to himself, he approached Zhou Zhou, and he stopped immediately. The pair of dark purple eyes looked at Zhou Zhou solemnly. To be precise, it was a crown that suddenly appeared above Zhou Zhou's head. This crown was completely grayish-white, and there were 3 small mountain-like bumps in front of it. It looked ancient and mysterious. It was the crown of the final. It floated above the head of Zhou Zhou, whose consciousness had already disappeared. Wisps of grayish-white airflow emerged from the crown and slowly wrapped around his consciousness, preventing outsiders from seeing what was inside. Soon, the grayish-white airflow dissipated. After Zhou Zhou appeared, he immediately opened his eyes. Then, he saw Deep Abyss speaking to the crown of the final in a language he didn't understand. You. Before Zhou Zhou could say anything, the deep abyss glanced at him again, and Zhou Zhou fell into unconsciousness again. Then, deep abyss watched helplessly as the crown of the final emitted wisps of grayish-white airflow again, enveloping Zhou Zhou and allowing him to regain consciousness. Zhou Zhou, who had been resurrected for the second time, calmed down. In this 1 second of survival, he had already figured out what had happened. He had been killed by the deep abyss with some kind of method, and then revived at the consciousness level by the crown of the final that suddenly appeared. He looked at the number of resurrections of the crown of the final. 32 times. Actually, he had only up to 24 times previously. However, after he obtained the advanced kingdom token of the new Wind Demon Kingdom, the crown of the final admitted that he had destroyed an advanced kingdom. It directly rewarded him with 1,000 points of final nirvana power, allowing him to revive 10 times, bringing the total number of revivals to an astonishing 34. Now that he had used it twice, it had become 32 times. He didn't have time to think about it before. Zhou Zhou was killed by Deep Abyss's gaze again, and his consciousness disappeared again. After the third resurrection, Zhou Zhou wanted to forcefully get rid of the bloodline stimulation in front of him. Even if he didn't want this demon hunter profession, he didn't want to waste his resurrection chances like this. And yet, he realized that he seemed to be trapped in this class change world by the deep abyss eye. He could not leave this world. Zhou Zhou suddenly remembered. This was how it was like to change one's class to demon hunter. Creatures who wanted to change their class to demon hunter had to defeat the remaining demonic will in their demon bloodline in their inner world during the class change process. Only then could they control the power of the demon bloodline and become a true demon hunter. Still, I'm AF * King Legendary tier. Are you sure you're not joking with an advanced grade Master God? Even the protagonist in the story who could fight above his level was not so powerful. In the next moment, Zhou Zhou was killed by the deep abyss again, and his consciousness was obliterated. After the fourth resurrection, Zhou Zhou's heart turned cold. He looked into Deep Abyss's eyes and saw the obvious mockery in his eyes. He seemed to be saying something else. So what if you can revive? The number of times you can revive is limited. As long as you are constantly killed by me, when the number of times you can revive is exhausted, your final outcome will still be death. And you? So what? Zhou Zhou realized. He had encountered the most dangerous crisis since he descended to the high continent. What should I do? Zhou Zhou thought calmly. He still had 32 resurrection moments to resolve the crisis in front of him. After the fifth resurrection, Zhou Zhou said without hesitation, "Please show yourself, divine ancestor." A terrifying phantom of a dragon appeared in this world. It was the legendary dragon that Zhou Zhou had summoned with his extreme dragon race bloodline secret technique, the Extreme World Honor Dragon. Even if ordinary extreme dragon race beings used such a bloodline secret technique, it was absolutely impossible for them to summon such an existence. However, Zhou Zhou had the legendary dragon bloodline of the Light Sacred Dragon. He also had the current Light Sacred Dragon, Ingersoll, under his command. This allowed him to have a deep relationship with the legendary dragon. That was why he could summon the Extreme World Honor Dragon at this stage. However, the price was also huge. He could feel that the extreme dragon race bloodline in his body had already fallen to an extremely thin level. He would probably not be able to summon the Extreme World Honor Dragon through this method in the future. The only good news was that although his extreme dragon race bloodline had been weakened, he could still slowly recover by eating some god-tier bloodline supplements in the future. He would not lose the power of the extreme dragon race. However, he could no longer summon the Extreme World Honor Dragon. However, before the Extreme World Honor Dragon's body could completely condense in this profession change space, the deep abyss, I looked coldly at the Extreme World Honor Dragon's body. Under Zhou Zhou's incredulous gaze, there was a boom, followed by a grunt. The dragon body that the Extreme World Honor Dragon had yet to condense was actually shattered by Deep Abyss's gaze. Zhou Zhou was flabbergasted, his heart palpitating in fear. The Extreme World Honor Dragon was also a Master God-tier existence. Furthermore, it was a Master God-tier existence that was still alive. How could it be shattered by the deep abyss with only one eye? This simply overturned Zhou Zhou's worldview. None of the top bloodline inheritances in Zhou Zhou's mind could explain such a thing. Deep abyss. He was definitely not an ordinary master god tier. Then he died. In the subsequent resurrections, Zhou Zhou used the various Lord talent techniques, bloodline talent techniques, true god tier divine artifacts, law skills. However, Zhou Zhou's methods were useless against Deep Abyss, who could shatter the extreme world-honor dragon's body with a single glance. Soon, out of his 32 resurrections, he only had 4 left. The more desperate Zhou Zhou was, the calmer he became. He suddenly realized a problem. The resurrection power of the final nirvana would allow his strength to break through to a certain level after he underwent nirvana. But now, he could feel that his current strength and realm had still stopped at the legendary tier advanced grade and was advancing to the god spirit realm. Even his soul had only become 100 times more solid because he had been resurrected many times. But there had been no multiple breakthroughs. Then, where did he undergo nirvana? The third resurrection from the end. After Zhou Zhou regained consciousness, he immediately sensed the changes in his body. However, the situation was not good for him. His cultivation realm was still stuck at the legendary tier advanced grade due to his law skills. His strength did not increase. His soul realm only increased by 1 level, but there was no qualitative change. Zhou Zhou indeed felt that he had improved in a certain aspect. This improvement was hidden in the deepest part of his consciousness. Every time his consciousness was destroyed and revived, it was greatly tempered. After the improvement of the power of the final nirvana, it was greatly strengthened. However, Zhou Zhou didn't notice the huge improvement in his consciousness. If it was an ordinary lord, at this moment, even with the enhancement of the power of final nirvana, he probably wouldn't be able to realize what his improvement was. But Zhou Zhou was not. All kinds of bloodlines, treasures, titles, race divine artifacts, and lord talents were augmented with astonishing comprehension. At this moment, it was displayed. After he realized that he had indeed obtained some kind of mysterious improvement, almost before his consciousness disappeared the next time, he realized what aspect of his improvement was. It's willpower. It's a will that I barely condensed after my consciousness underwent the refinement of the extreme resurrection process and 32 breakthroughs of the power of the final nirvana. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. When he realized this, it was as if something had been awakened from the deepest part of his consciousness. At this moment, Zhou Zhou's consciousness emitted a faint white light, making him look like a god. A supreme pressure emitted from his will. If a life form saw Zhou Zhou at this moment, even if the other party was a true god tier, Zhou Zhou's figure would leave an indelible mark in the depths of the other party's heart like a belief. At the same time, the eye of Deep Abyss looked at Zhou Zhou calmly again. An incomparably huge willpower impact landed on Zhou Zhou's will body. In the end, the willpower that could easily destroy Zhou Zhou's consciousness seemed to be like a breeze. It only made Zhou Zhou frown slightly. Then, as if nothing had happened, he chuckled softly. I see. This is the will condensation method that I couldn't completely memorize when I absorbed the first demon bloodline. And now, I've completely remembered it. With the help of the revival effect, I've directly stepped into the door of condensing willpower and entered the stage of will-like light. The me I am now have a will-like light. When the light shines on my body, I will not be destroyed. As long as my heart doesn't age, I will never age. As long as my heart doesn't die, I will never die. Even if my body and soul are destroyed, I can exist in this world. However, I will lose my cultivation realm and become an existence similar to the world's will. So, with only one eye, you can't hurt me anymore. Am I right, Deep Abyss? Zhou Zhou looked into Deep Abyss' eyes and said with a faint smile. Deep Abyss looked at him silently. After a long time, it made that strange sound again. However, Zhou Zhou, who had already entered the threshold of condensing willpower and had entered the stage of willpower being like light, could magically understand it. This was because the Deep Abyss spoke a language at the level of will. Only those who had achieved something in terms of willpower could understand. If one did not achieve anything at the level of willpower, even true God tier and master God tier would not be able to understand what the deep abyss was saying. For example, the extreme world-honored dragon just now. And what deep abyss had just said was, I am not convinced. I have no resentment for losing to the abyss will. But why did I lose to an ant like you? The deep abyss roared. Everything has its cause and effect. You really don't understand? Zhou Zhou said calmly. Speaking of which, the deep abyss was indeed miserable. His achievements in willpower should far exceed his own. He might even have reached a higher level of willpower. However, he had long been dismembered by the abyss will. The real deep abyss had long been killed. What Zhou Zhou was looking at was only the remnant will of the deep abyss bloodline on one of its arms. If not for that, how could Zhou Zhou, who had just stepped into the stage of will like light, withstand the attack of the deep abyss's willpower? If it was the deep abyss's main body, it would probably possess him completely with a look. After Zhou Zhou finished speaking, the deep abyss suddenly fell silent. After a long while, he calmly said, You're right. If I hadn't been so anxious back then to replace the abyss will, I might have. Before it could finish speaking, it suddenly stopped. Zhou Zhou also sensed something and looked up at the sky. A pitch-black pupil had appeared in the sky. He was the source of all negative emotions, the end of evil, and also the source of filth. It occupied that place, as if it was the center of this world. Abyss will, Zhou Zhou muttered. The abyss will glanced at Zhou Zhou, and Zhou Zhou felt a tremble that came from the depths of his soul and even the depths of his will. It was as if the other party was an existence that he could never touch. Zhou Zhou realized that the difference between his own will and the other party's will was as great as the difference between an ordinary life form and a god spirit. Before Zhou Zhou could think further, the abyss will's gaze landed on the eye of deep abyss. It was just a glance. The eye of deep abyss was like crushed gravel. It disintegrated into countless dark purple light spots and dissipated in the air. Then, the abyss will glanced at Zhou Zhou again. He did not know if it was an illusion, but Zhou Zhou seemed to see admiration in its eye. At the same time, he sent a message to himself before gradually dissipating. After Zhou Zhou learned of this information, his expression changed. At this moment, he suddenly felt a huge force coming from the pitch-black void in all directions. It surged into his body crazily and swallowed him in the blink of an eye. At the same time, in the outside world, two Geralts were standing in front of Zhou Zhou. One of them was maintaining the secret formation of the abyssal dragons, while the other Geralt kept taking out buckets of the secret medicine of the abyssal dragons from his spatial treasures and pouring them into the bathtub where Zhou Zhou was. The two Geralts looked at the rapidly fading liquid of the dragon of abyss secret medicine in the bathtub. Their eyes were red, and they felt as if their hearts were bleeding. So many dragons of the abyss class change secret medicines that had already cost he more than half of his wealth. If he didn't think that Zhou Zhou was suitable to inherit the demon hunter profession and could become a pillar of humanity in the future, wouldn't have spent so much effort and resources to help Zhou Zhou. Even so, looking at Zhou Zhou, who was constantly absorbing the power of the secret medicine, he was already starting to regret it. At this rate, if he ran out of secret medicine, Zhou Zhou's job transition ceremony might not be completed. Then, he would really suffer a double loss. What the hell are you doing? What kind of demon bloodline can consume so many abyssal dragon secret potions? Geralt roared in his heart, hoping to wake Zhou Zhou up. At this moment, an illusory, pitch-black pupil gradually appeared above Zhou Zhou's body. The pitch-black light shone on Zhou Zhou's body, making him look like a sleeping demon god. The abyss will, Geralt cried out. Geralt's body froze on the spot, not daring to move for fear of attracting the attention of this terrifying existence. At the same time, his mind was racing. What kind of situation could trigger the descent of the abyss will? Impossible. It was impossible for such a change to happen under any circumstances. They were demon hunters, members of the opposing faction of the abyss. How was it possible for the demon hunter's class change to attract the phenomenon of the abyss will? Wasn't this like a weasel paying New Year's greetings to a chicken? What was going on? Gerald. Gerald was stunned. Fortunately, the abyss will did not pay attention to Gerald and disappeared after a while. Gerald only heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the abyss will disappear. He turned to look at Zhou Zhou and realized that Zhou Zhou had actually woken up. He was sitting in the clear secret change potion, deep in thought. Whose demon bloodline do you have? Why did it attract the attention of the abyss will? Seeing that Zhou Zhou had woken up, Gerald could not help but ask the question in his heart. He was too curious. Zhou Zhou said nothing. His attention was completely focused on the text message notification in front of him. Congratulations, you have successfully changed your profession to a gradeless combat profession. Demon Hunter. You have activated the Demon Hunter bloodline, first demon bloodline. Master God Tier Advanced Grade. As your demon bloodline is Master God Tier Advanced Grade, your Demon Hunter profession grade will automatically change to Divine Kingdom Combat Profession. Your combat class column has been activated. First Demon, Demonization, Demon Hunting Evolution, Demon Hunting Bloodsword, Strengthen 6 Senses, Summon Abyssal Gate, Create Abyssal Coordinates. You have awakened the Demon Hunter skills, Demon's Arrow, Demon Eye, Demon Hunter Armor, Super Spiritualism, Demon Biting, Chaos Strike, Production Profession Change Elixir, Life Elixir, Blood Energy Elixir, Weapon Repair. As you have subdued the demonic will in the demon bloodline, you have obtained a portion of the demonic inheritance from your own demonic bloodline. This includes, but is not limited to, the cultivation experience of Will Divine Transformation Realm, a portion of the Lord's Law talent, the Lord's Law cultivation experience, a portion of the Abyssal Providence talent, Abyssal Summoning, Original Sin Flame, Abyssal World cultivation experience. Zhou Zhou could not help but click his tongue when he saw so many talents and skills. As expected of a demon hunter who had awakened the bloodline of the Master God Tier Advanced Grade Deep Abyss, he had so many tricks up his sleeve. He glanced at the abilities of these talents and skills, and then his gaze fell on a few talents and skills that he liked. Talent name: Original Demon. Talent level: Master God Tier Advanced Grade. Talent description: the demon bloodline in your body comes from the first demon in the endless heavens. With this demon bloodline, you can face any demon without fear of their pressure. It could also release its own pressure to suppress the demon's bloodlines and reduce their strength by 10 to 50%. There was a high chance that the other party would be afraid and not dare to fight him. There was a small chance that the other party would give up fighting and escape or surrender. Talent name: Demon Hunting Evolution. Talent level: Master God Tier Advanced Grade. Talent description: the demon bloodline in your body comes from the first demon in the endless heavens. You, who has this demon bloodline, are also a top-notch demon hunter. When you fight a demon and successfully kill the demon, you can extract the demon origin power from the other party's corpse and add it to your body. This will permanently increase a certain aspect of your ability. There is a small chance that you can absorb and master a brand new demon bloodline power from the demon origin power. These two abilities, the former made him the absolute nemesis of demons. At the same level, no matter what background the other party had, even if it was a direct descendant of a Master God Tier demon, Zhou Zhou could rely on the original demon to suppress it. The latter's demon hunting evolution was interesting, but also somewhat useless. This was because it was like a weakened version of the Chaos Human bloodline. However, the Chaos Human bloodline could absorb any bloodline and use it for its own use. As for the evolution of demon hunters, they could only absorb demon bloodlines for their own use. The difference between the two was self-evident. As for the other talents and skills, Zhou Zhou had also seen them. They were all very practical. However, none of them shocked him as much as the following notifications. The cultivation experience of the Will Divine Transformation Realm, part of the Lord's nomological talent. Lord's Law cultivation experience, a portion of the Abyssal Providence. The Will Divine Transformation Realm was the next evolution of the willpower like light. Now that he had will like light, even though his combat strength did not increase much, his life-saving ability had greatly increased. It could even be said that as long as he did not destroy himself in the long river of time or be killed by an existence who had grasped a higher level of will. In that case, there was almost no life form in this world that could kill him. Furthermore, will like light had two benefits. The first benefit was that he didn't have to worry about being possessed. This was because a will like light expert's soul and physical body were no longer his constraints. As long as his will was not destroyed, even if his soul and physical body were forcefully possessed by others, he could make his physical body and soul self-destruct with a single thought. Not only would the enemy not obtain anything, but they would also be in danger of dying. This was also the reason why the Eye of Deep Abyss didn't plan to possess Zhou Zhou when it saw him enter the will-like light realm. Of course, this was a method of killing 1,000 enemies and sacrificing 800. As for the second benefit, after achieving will-like light, he would no longer be afraid of soul and mental attacks. Because from today onwards, willpower was his source. His soul and physical body were only the resting places of his will. Of course, this did not mean that his soul and body were not important. In terms of willpower alone, willpower did not have any direct combat methods. On the other hand, the soul and physical body could unleash many protective and offensive methods. Furthermore, if he wanted to become a higher-level god spirit or even fight for the Lord of all races, his soul and body were things that could not be abandoned. If one day, in order to survive, he gave up his soul and body and became a pure existence of will, even if he could live, he would only live like a wandering soul. He would have no potential or future to speak of. Therefore, even if he had stepped into the level of will like light, unless he was forced into a desperate situation in the future, he would not easily give up his soul and body. And will like light had so many benefits. There was no need to mention the will divine transformation realm. Zhou Zhou, who had obtained a portion of the Deep Abyss's inheritance, already knew. Will like light was one of the thresholds for a true god tier to become a master god tier. As for the will divine transformation realm, it was the threshold of a master god tier stepping into the supreme god realm. Back then, Deep Abyss felt that he had already reached the will divine transformation realm. That was why he coveted the status of the Abyss will and wanted to usurp the throne. Unfortunately, he didn't expect the Abyss will to be so powerful. His actions had just begun when he was discovered by the Abyss will. Then, he was easily stripped of his position as a lord by the Abyss will, and he was sentenced to eternal dismemberment. In the end, a portion of his bloodline inheritance benefited Zhou Zhou after countless years. And with the experience of the soul formation cultivation of consciousness, Zhou Zhou had a clear direction for his willpower. This was naturally very meaningful for his future growth. In addition, a portion of the Lord's nomological talent, Lord's nomological cultivation experience, and a portion of the abyssal providence in the Deep Abyss were naturally very important to Zhou Zhou, who was currently walking on the path of the Lord's nomological laws. This Deep Abyss, even though I wasted so many resurrections, but it's also given me some amazing benefits. Zhou Zhou could not help but smile. Even though the number of resurrections was precious, it was not difficult to obtain. He just had to destroy a few more enemy countries. Then, he suddenly thought of his other two first demon bloodlines. Were they useful to him? Zhou Zhou suddenly realized this problem. Zhou Zhou hesitated for a moment before finally giving up on this tempting idea. Those two first demon bloodlines might also contain the bloodline will of the Deep Abyss. This time, the sudden appearance of the Abyss will helped him deal with the Deep Abyss, but it did not mean that the Abyss will would appear again to deal with the Deep Abyss next time. In order to not necessarily increase his strength, Zhou Zhou did not want to take the risk of coming into contact with the Deep Abyss's bloodline will. What if the Deep Abyss didn't want to possess him next time and wanted to destroy him instead? With the other party's powerful strength that could shatter the extreme world honor dragon with a single glance, it was useless for Zhou Zhou to revive 10,000 times. There were many ways to increase his strength, so there was no need to take the risk for one of them. Moreover, even if he could absorb the power of the first demon in the two bloodlines, he would probably not be able to improve much. They were all repetitive spoils of war created by the King of Loots after all. Most of his strength and abilities overlapped with his own. Zhou Zhou no longer felt conflicted. He would find an opportunity to sell those two duplicate first demon bloodlines in the future or exchange them for other treasures of the same value. Whose demon bloodline do you have? The Chaos Demon Hound, Kurtzov? Or the Nightmare Serpent, Dandel? Could it be the Elven Devourer? If it's inconvenient for you to say, pretend I didn't ask. At this moment, Gerald's curious voice sounded. He still couldn't hold back his doubts and asked this somewhat rude question again. Neither. It's the first demon, Deep Abyss. Zhou Zhou came back to his senses and said it without hiding anything. In his perception, Gerald was an extremely pure person, and under his cold and fierce face, he actually had a kind and compassionate heart. Gerald was an extremely pure person, and under his cold and fierce face, he actually had a kind and compassionate heart. Hence, he believed that his perception was right. Gerald was a trustworthy person, so he told him about this not-so-secret matter. First demon? Gerald frowned slightly, looking a little lost. I actually don't have any impression. He believed that his understanding of the abyssal god spirits exceeded that of most humans and even other races. He had never heard of this name before. Zhou Zhou shrugged. Where could he have an impression? According to the memories passed down to him by the Deep Abyss, after the Deep Abyss was destroyed by the Abyss Will, the endless world of the Abyss under his rule also experienced a huge upheaval under the wrath of the Abyss Will. After that turbulence, countless Abyss Lords were reshuffled. The Chaos Demon Hound Kurtzov, Nightmare Giant Snake Dandel, and Elven Devourer that Gerald mentioned were all abyssal powerhouses that rose after the turbulent era. Even ancient existences like them might not know about the existence of the Deep Abyss, let alone Gerald, this little guy. Maybe it's an abyssal powerhouse that I don't know about. Gerald did not dwell on this matter. He looked at Zhou Zhou, who was safe and sound. After knowing that he had successfully transitioned into the demon hunter profession, a smile appeared on his face. At least he didn't let this genius be destroyed in his hands. However, when he saw the dozen empty barrels beside him, the smile on his face immediately turned bitter. Zhou Zhou also noticed these empty barrels. He thought for a moment and guessed what had happened. It seems like His Holiness Gerald has suffered heavy losses for this job change of mine. Zhou Zhou smiled. It's not that bad. Gerald looked at him expressionlessly. I just used 16 more portions of the Dragon of Abyss secret medicine. Zhou Zhou was stunned. He actually used 16 more portions of the Abyssal Dragon secret medicine? This secret medicine of the Abyss Dragon could allow living beings with the bloodline of a master god-tier demon to change their occupation to demon hunters. Strictly speaking, there must be master god-tier materials inside. It could be considered a master god-tier medicine. There were a total of 16 master god-tier potions. Even though he did not know how Gerald, a high-tier deity level, obtained them, it was indeed a huge loss. Zhou Zhou walked out of the bathtub. At the same time, the Emperor Dragon robe automatically appeared on his body, covering his flawless and handsome figure. He walked in front of Gerald and flipped his right hand. A spatial ring appeared in his hand. I really didn't expect His Holiness Gerald to lose so many potions. Take what's inside as a small compensation. Apart from that, in the future, if Your Holiness Gerald encounters any difficulties, you need to seek help from me. As long as it's within my capabilities, I will definitely do my best to help. Zhou Zhou said seriously. With his current combat strength, he could barely be considered half a true god expert. After he became a god spirit, he would have the usual true god-tier combat power. Coupled with the various abilities of his territory and the connections he currently had, Zhou Zhou thought that this favor of his still had a certain value. There's no need for compensation. I promised you that I would let you successfully change your profession to the demon hunter profession. Even though the consumption of potions during this process exceeded my expectations, this is something I should bear. You just... Gerald was about to decline Zhou Zhou's compensation. Why don't you take a look first, Your Holiness? At this moment, Zhou Zhou suddenly spoke. Looking at the faint smile on Zhou Zhou's face, he hesitated for a moment before taking the spatial ring and entering it with his consciousness. Then, his body clearly trembled. This was because he saw an entire set of high-tier deity-level advanced grade divine artifacts and a true god-tier advanced divine artifacts. It was the true god-tier advanced grade divine artifact, Crown of Original Sin. Zhou Zhou had 3 Crown of Original Sins, so he took one out and gifted it to Geralt. There was nothing he couldn't bear to part with. After all, the benefits he had obtained from the other party far surpassed this true god-tier divine artifacts. How do you know true god-tier divine artifacts? Geralt looked at Zhou Zhou with his mouth agape. These were true god-tier divine artifacts, and they were top-notch true god-tier divine artifacts. Even those super existences in the abyss might not necessarily have such a divine artifact. He actually made the king of the intermediate kingdom, who was not even at the god spirit realm, take it out? Geralt suddenly understood something. Why could the other party suppress the lords of the myriad races and have his current achievements? Why could the other party suppress the lords of the myriad races and have his current achievements? Not to mention the lords of the 10,000 races. Even the civilization behind the lords of the myriad races probably did not have such a foundation. It's not convenient for me to reveal the origins of the true god-tier divine artifacts for the time being. Please keep it a secret for me, Your Holiness. But then again, this Crown of Original Sin should be very useful to His Holiness. Zhou Zhou said. Geralt did not speak. He looked at the Crown of Original Sin in the spatial ring hesitantly. After hesitating for a long time, he finally looked at Zhou Zhou. After realizing that the other party really did not have the intention to joke, he gritted his teeth and stomped his feet. He finally recognized his consciousness as his master. After it completely recognized him as its master, Geralt naturally knew the effects of all the divine artifacts of this Crown of Original Sin. It's more than useful. These true god-tier divine artifacts are simply treasures tailor-made for demons and demon hunters. Geralt looked deeply at Zhou Zhou. Even though Geralt was only a high-tier deity level and was temporarily unable to activate the full power of the Crown of Original Sin, an advanced grade true god-tier divine artifact, but while he was just approaching the Crown of Original Sin, he could feel the demon bloodline in his body surging with excitement and roaring wildly. He could sense it. Now, with the enhancement of the Crown of Original Sin, his comprehension of some of the original sin laws was at least 10 times stronger. Originally, the nomological path that he walked was the path of the original sin. With the enhancement of this true god-tier divine artifacts, he was even more exaggerated than adding wings to a tiger. He was even confident that it wouldn't take long for he to comprehend the laws at the true god-tier level and officially enter the true god-tier level. He thought for a moment and told him about his confidence in breaking through to the true god-tier realm in a short period of time. Zhou Zhou's eyes widened. Geralt could break through to the true god-tier realm? Could it be that the human race was about to welcome a 6th true god-tier? How long will it take for His Holiness to become a true god-tier? Zhou Zhou immediately asked. I'm still lacking some law comprehension in the aspect of the rage laws. I've already reached the limit of the other original sin laws. With this Crown of Original Sin, I can complete the nomological comprehension that I lack in 100 years. Geralt said with certainty. I heard that during the process of transforming into a true god-tier, the Supreme will send down the power of laws to temper itself. Once it can't survive this process, there's a risk of death. Has His Holiness made preparations in this regard? Zhou Zhou asked. I made some preparations, Geralt said. However, Zhou Zhou could see a hint of insincerity on the other party's face. Zhou Zhou had a guess. From the looks of it, even if His Holiness had made some preparations, these preparations were probably not enough for he to have sufficient confidence that he could safely survive the process of tempering his divine body with the power of laws. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and took out 3 items from his king's treasure box. The first item was an illusory white transparent fruit. The second item was a black tree root. The third item was an emerald green potion. Geralt stared at the 3 items that Zhou Zhou had taken out with his mouth agape. Even though he couldn't tell what the 3 items were, the true god-tier aura on them clearly told them that they were all true god-tier items. This is the hazy sacred fruit. It comes from the hazy domain in the abyss where the nightmare snake is located. Its effect is to turn one's divine body into nothingness. It has a miraculous effect when resisting the invasion of the nomological power of a true god-tier. This is the root of Nisberg, a part of a true god-tier world tree root in the abyss. It's one of the main materials for creating true god-tier divine artifacts. It's also very effective in channeling and absorbing the power of laws. This potion is called the Grace of the Goddess of Life. It's an elementary grade true god tier potion. It can instantly heal any injuries below the true god tier. It's also extremely effective for injuries above the true god tier. It just requires a certain amount of healing time. Your Excellency, with these 3 items, it should be able to increase the success rate of tempering the divine body through the power of law, right? Oh yes. In my territory, there's a special building that can allow the consciousness of a life form to enter the illusory past. Furthermore, the ratio of time flow in the past to the real world has reached 1,000 to 1. Sir, why don't you bring the crown of original sin in and comprehend the original sin laws? This should reduce the time by at least 1,000 times. After Zhou Zhou finished speaking, he looked up at Geralt and asked, Geralt. He looked at Zhou Zhou's generous move. There was only one question left in his mind. Was this king of the blazing sun really not a divine kingdom king in disguise? Geralt left. He took the true god-tier divine artifacts and treasures that Zhou Zhou had given him and headed for the reincarnation sacred palace. He was prepared to enter it to comprehend the original sin laws until he became a true god-tier. I hope that another true god-tier will appear in the human race. It'll give me more time to develop. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. Even though he was already very strong, for the time being, he didn't want to face the civilization behind the lords of all races. The longer he developed, the more beneficial it was for him. Zhou Zhou opened his profession interface and realized that he already had 4 combat professions. Martial artist, the Lord of the End, Chi practitioner, demon hunter. Currently, I can take on 7 combat professions. There are still 3 professions left. Zhou Zhou shook his head and did not mind. Top-notch professions could be obtained but not sought after. He just had to take it slow. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, the first half of the night passed. They waited until past 3 in the morning. The power of the fog monsters. It's coming. About 1 billion kilometers away from the blazing sun kingdom. Legendary tier Scarlet Territory, in the sky above the Demon Flames Sacred Mountain. More than 4 billion blazing Sun Kingdom troops were waiting in 10 galaxy spaceships that had entered the interlayer of space. In addition, the 76 god spirits and the 12 local god spirits belonging to the blazing Sun Kingdom were waiting alone on the galaxy. All the living beings and immortals looked at the scene in the distance. The army of fog monsters that was like a scarlet tide surged over from afar. The ground trembled. All living beings were silent. The immortals looked over. The longitudinal battlefront alone was more than 10 million kilometers away. The horizontal battlefront was also more than 1 million kilometers away. Densely packed fog monsters that emitted a terrifying might filled the area. Wherever it passed, there were no living beings, and not even a blade of grass grew. Even the astronomical phenomenon followed in their footsteps and turned into a scarlet astronomical phenomenon. Any life form would be shocked by this scene and subconsciously hold their breaths. Even the immortals behind Zhou fell silent for a moment when they saw this. It's been a long time since I've seen such a scene. When Sun Wukong saw this scene, his eyes shone with golden light. He stroked the Jingu staff in his hand and muttered, Yang Jin, Neza, the Gale Archmage, the god of war, the god of silver star knights, the immortal hermit of the South Pole, the god of puppets, the high priest soul summoner, the great emperor of the East Mountain, the goddess of the Holy Land. The immortals and gods stood up one after another and looked at these fog monsters, especially the scarlet god spirits among them. Their eyes were filled with fighting spirit, and none of them wanted to retreat. Let's fight. King of the blazing sun. Neza, who had already used 3 heads and 6 arms, looked at Zhou Zhou with shining eyes. Wanya, leave the interlayer of space and open all the doors of the galaxy. Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. Yes, your majesty. Wanya's voice resounded throughout the galaxy. Then, a total of 18 galaxies appeared from space and floated above Demon Flame's sacred mountain. Then, there was a buzzing sound. Then, the immortals saw all the hatches open at the same time. All soldiers, immortals, listen to my orders. Leave the galaxy. Fight all the invading Scarlet Legion. Zhou Zhou ordered.
Yes.
The immortals and soldiers roared. Then, they rushed out of the spaceship. Previous chapter. More than 4 billion soldiers and more than 80 immortals flew out of the 18 galaxy at the same time. What kind of visual impact was that? To the monster faction in the fog in the distance, it was as if 18 gates between worlds had suddenly opened in the distant sky, and a large number of creatures from the other worlds had charged out of the gates between worlds, wanting to kill and plunder this world. Not to mention the ordinary life forms who were struggling at death's door nearby and did not dare to make a sound. Even the 5 billion fog monsters and hundreds of scarlet god spirits were stunned, so much so that the temporary commander of the fog monster army immediately ordered the army to stop advancing and prepare to observe the situation. After a full 15 minutes, more than 4 billion blazing Sun Kingdom troops and more than 80 god spirits flew out of the galaxy. They were all flying in the sky. Those who could fly naturally used their own flying skills, and those who were too weak to fly were using external flying equipment like the Fear Falcon's wings. Zhou Zhou also flew out. Then, he first took out the Pillar of the Empire puppet and summoned the Lord of the Empire, Gerard, who was at the high-tier deity level intermediate grade. Then, with a thought, he summoned a high-tier deity level advanced grade Purple Jade, Heavenly King Snake God through his affinity with the Gu God of the 10,000 Gu Emperor clan bloodline. This snake god had not appeared since he dealt with the Black Dragon Emperor's remnant soul last time. When he appeared again, he looked at Zhou Zhou warmly. Then, he looked at the fog monster army in the distance before he was deceived. Not to mention the 5 billion fog monster army, the astonishing aura of the hundreds of scarlet god spirits was clearly displayed in his perception. What's going on? Is this a racial war? Why did this kid, a legendary tier human, experience such a ridiculous battle? Previously, he had dealt with the remnant soul of a true god-tier black dragon. This time, it was not a remnant soul, but a direct racial war? Good lad, giving me the high-end game. The Purple Jade Heavenly King Snake God turned around and looked at Zhou Zhou resentfully. If he hadn't seen that there were many powerful god spirits in this kid's camp, he wouldn't have stayed here to wade in the muddy water. Gu God Affinity only allowed him to protect Zhou Zhou appropriately after being summoned. There was no need for him to protect him with his life. As the guardian of the 10,000 Gu race, if he really felt that the situation was not right, he could escape. Ahem. Help me, Big Brother Snake? Zhou Zhou saw the Purple Jade Heavenly King Snake God's gaze and understood its thoughts. He said awkwardly. The Purple Jade Heavenly King Snake God did not say anything and only nodded. He turned to look at the fog monsters and the Scarlet God Spirit, his gaze gradually turning cold. Zhou Zhou took a deep breath when he saw this. Then, he formed a hand seal and chanted a spell. Then, he suddenly opened his eyes and pulled his hands to the sides. Bang! With a tearing sound, a spatial rift actually appeared in the space behind Zhou Zhou. Right on the heels of that, another crash sounded. The spatial rift suddenly shattered. Then, a black demon dog that was more than 2,000 meters tall and burning with dark purple hell flames poked its head out of the shattered space and looked at the world in front of it with a ferocious and greedy expression. It was Levis, the mid-tier deity-level advanced grade abyssal demon hound god spirit that Zhou Zhou had summoned with his talent in summoning abyssal guardians. This racial talent of the first demon that summoned the Abyss Guardian could at most summon an Abyss life form 2 realms higher than him to protect him. On the surface, Zhou Zhou's current strength was at the legendary tier advanced grade, so he could only summon this mid-tier deity-level abyssal demon hound that was Levis. Greetings, Holy Sun. After the Abyss demon hound Levis walked out of the spatial rift, it retracted its ferocious appearance and stood obediently beside Zhou Zhou. He was clearly thousands of times larger than Zhou Zhou, but he acted like a good dog in front of Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou was not surprised by this situation. He had a large amount of abyssal providence, obtained the inheritance of the first demon Deep Abyss, and was protected by the Abyss Will. It was no exaggeration to say that if Zhou Zhou entered the Abyss now, as long as he displayed the might of his bloodline in front of the super-existences in the Abyss, those super-existences would probably immediately think that he had encountered the illegitimate son of the Abyss Will. Even though the Abyss demon hound Levis was famous in the Abyss and was even related to one of the 3 giants of the Abyss, the Chaos demon hound, he had to treat a special existence like Zhou Zhou carefully. Moreover, he also felt an extremely obvious fatal threat from Zhou Zhou. It was as if the other party could easily end his life the moment he attacked. Under such a situation where he had both background and strength, he was naturally extremely fawning over Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou did not stand on ceremony with the abyssal guardian he had summoned. Later, I'll work with my people to deal with these fog monsters. He pointed at the fog monster in the distance and ordered, "All right, Holy Sun." Levis smiled obsequiously and looked at the forces of the monster army in the distance. His 4 lackeys could not help but tremble. He turned to look at Zhou Zhou and found that he was expressionless and had no intention of joking. He could only fly forward and stay with Heros and the other high-tier deity levels, acting like an obedient and harmless dog. Heros and the other high-tier deity-level god spirits looked at the abyssal demon hound with strange expressions. However, they also knew that he had been summoned by their lord, so they didn't say anything and let he stay by their side. Sun Wukong, Yang Jin, Neza, the god of Silver Star Knights, the immortal hermit of the South Pole, the god of puppets, the high priest of soul summoning. At this moment, they also looked at Zhou Zhou in surprise. They originally thought that they had already thought too highly of this king. They had never expected that King of the Blazing Sun's summoning would once again suppress them. With a wave of his hand, he summoned 2 top-notch high-tier deity-level experts and a mid-tier deity-level expert to fight for him. Probably only a god spirit with a great contract nomological path could probably only reach this standard, right? However, at this moment, Zhou Zhou did something that shocked everyone again. He clasped his hands together and closed his eyes. Boom. A mysterious purple door that was 1,000,000 meters tall and 100,000 meters wide quietly appeared behind Zhou Zhou. There were many myths and legends engraved on the surface of the mysterious door. There were demons invading the world, abyssal demonic chi rising, god spirits fighting each other, and even will-level existences fighting each other. All kinds of purple engravings were engraved on the door. Just looking at them made them feel dazed. They could not help but have negative thoughts of violence, killing, jealousy, hatred, and so on. The Abyssal Gate? Many god spirits who saw this scene recognized the origin of this mysterious door. It was the official means of war used by the Abyss to invade the myriad worlds, the Abyssal Gate.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.